My name is Rick Petherbridge, and I'm here to talk tennis. And today we're going to focus on doubles at Wimbledon. And this is exciting for me. I always feel that doubles don't get the attention they deserve. As a USTA player who's now 65 years old, I'm really only playing doubles now. My legs just don't hold up for singles. I think there's a lot of recreational players like me. Um, and it's a shame that we don't see more doubles on TV, um, because I just find doubles really interesting to watch. But also, it helps me when I watch doubles teams play to give me ideas about how I want to play when I play a USTA match. Um, so I'm glad that we're doing this double segment, and I wish that the TV uh, would spend more time on doubles because I think it deserves it, and I think it's just as entertaining as singles. Okay, we're going to start off and we're going to talk about women's doubles. And I'm going to start off and sort of pick my favorite. And I think in this case, it is a little easier to do. My favorite is the number one seeded doubles team, which is Krejcikova and Sinakova. Um, they are ranked number 1 and 2 in women's doubles, so it's not surprising that they're the number one seeded team. They've had a really good year this year. They won Roland Garros, and they were finalists at the Australian Open. Both very talented players, and they've played a lot together. So they're going to be really tough to beat. However, I would point out that there's something interesting that's coming up for this doubles team. And that is that Krejcikova won the singles at Roland Garros. And that is a big threat to a doubles team. So what we've seen happen historically, and it's happened frequently, when one player gets good enough to compete at a top 10 level in singles, they tend to either walk away from their doubles team, or they just don't put the same energy and focus into it. And that's a shame, right? Because, we don't have as many sort of legendary doubles teams as we do singles players for that very reason, right? So that, a guy like Federer, who could have been a doubles champion, has all the doubles skills, just makes a decision, I'm going to be a singles player exclusively. So it'll be interesting to see how much longer this team lasts, right? Because, Krejcikova just won a Grand Slam and a bunch of money. And it'll be interesting to see if her priorities shift, right? If she says, you know what, singles is now my priority, I can make more money at that. And either I'm going to stop playing doubles, or I'm just not going to put the same intensity and effort into it. So for me, that's something that's interesting to see on the future, and it'll be interesting to see how much longer this doubles pairing can survive. All right, Ted, I'm going to turn it over to you on your takes with women's doubles.
Well, I totally agree with you. The number one seed they're fun to watch. I saw them play at Indian Wells, and Singakova. I There's something about her. She's kind of like a temperamental child on the court at times, but she is exciting. She plays with a lot of heart, and she's actually breaking out on her own in singles as well. And I agree with you that it's just tragic. It cuts careers and doubles down because, like I said, the money and also the time and it takes to play and get good at. Um, but the good news is, as you get older, I feel to extend people's longevity, like with us, I do see in the future some of the older players going to doubles to extend their professional careers. But Coco Golf is and also it's like a farm club too when you're first starting out. It's a good way to get some good wins to develop your confidence if you can go deeper into tournaments. So when you're first starting out, you're not quite there for singles. You go to doubles and you get a couple, matches in your belt. You also get used to playing in the larger arenas too. So it's really a good way to help people mature when they need to do that. So I that's what I think about that. But that, and another fun one is the mixed doubles too, because your older players like Ram will play, and another good women's player, which everybody knows about, is Bethany Maddox Sands. She's a great doubles player as well, and she's kind of experimented with who she plays with because Farash with Jack Sock. But like I said, I totally agree with you. Tennis and doubles I think requires more skill, and the points are more exciting as well. So.
And Ted, I want to follow up on the point that you made, and that is that, we have seen some really talented players sort of as a second act in their career go on and play doubles. And the one that strikes me the most is Martina Navratilova, right? That she, of course, was a great singles champion, but that she still loved the game and she still wanted to compete. And it was really entertaining to watch her then transition to a doubles career and become a really talented doubles player. And as a fan, I would hope that other pros would think of that as an option, right? That, just because you're no longer able to compete for the Grand Slams, or you're not a top 10 player in singles anymore, if you still have the desire to play, why not go back out on the doubles tour, right? And do it just for yourself because you love the game, because it's entertaining, and to give us all fans a chance, right? I mean, I love being able to watch, a talented champion like Martina Navratilova go out and play, tennis into her late 40s. And there's no reason why other athletes or tennis players couldn't do that. And I think it would just add a lot to our sport if they did. Okay, so my second choice that I picked out for the women's doubles, and I'm sort of going away from, I'm not saying that they're favorites. They're just a team that I'm interested in watching. And the reason is that they're two women from Taipei, which is a small country of about 2 million people, much smaller than the city of Los Angeles. And to me, it's just, exciting and impressive that two players from such a small country can, meet up and play and compete in a sport like tennis at the highest level. So this is H Chan and L Chan. They're both from Taipei. They're seeded number 7 in doubles at Wimbledon. H Chan is ranked 21 in the world in doubles, and L Chan is also ranked 21 in the world in doubles because they only play together. So they have the exact same point total in terms of their doubles ranking. They lost in the third round of Roland Garros. But I think they're improving as a team. And it's just, like I said, it's entertaining and interesting to me. And I like it as a tennis fan that I see small countries that I don't think of as tennis playing countries, whether it's Morocco or Taipei or, Nigeria, you pick your country, but it's exciting to see talented players come out of there. And it's interesting for me to watch them play on, the setting of Wimbledon. So Ted, what about you? What doubles team sort of strikes your fancy out of this women's group?
Well, I like Goff and McNally because they're younger and they're hungry. And like I said, I think these matches will help them both build their confidence to propel them better up in singles. But yeah, I tell you what, I love the point you made with Martina. I saw her play live, and her game obviously was suited for the doubles. And so, she had really good hands. But yeah, but getting back to the Golf and McNally, I think that when you see the younger players, they're not afraid to experiment as well. with how they play the game as well. So that's another thing I like about it.
So Ted, you must have been reading my mind, because for my third doubles team in women's, I did pick Goff and McNally, and I like to keep, a spotlight on an American team. In this case, a young team that both of these players are really improving. And Goff in particular, I think clearly is going to be a big star, and probably at some point exclusively a single star. But it's great to see her now playing tennis. And I think it's a really smart thing to do, right? I think that players that take the time to play doubles, develop skills, tennis skills that they wouldn't naturally develop as singles players, and become more complete players. And in the end, it benefits their singles game. So I think it's a smart move on Goff's part. But as a fan, I recognize that she's probably only going to do this another couple years before she starts to specialize in singles. Now, another thing that's sort of interesting to me about this group is that, with doubles, there's a lot of reasons why you have people pairing up in teams, right? So you can start with Krejcikova and Sinakova and say, well, they're the two #1 doubles players. So it's not surprising that they sort of chose each other, right? But another type of pairing, and you see this quite often, is it's not about what your doubles ranking is, that you find a player that you trust, that you like, that you play well together with, and you choose to play with that player. Not necessarily because they're the best doubles player in the world, but you just enjoy that pairing. And a lot of times that seems to really work in doubles, right? So you have, two players that, if you look at their ranking, don't look like they should be able to compete on the same level as these #1 and #2 ranked doubles players. But they, for whatever it is about the chemistry of doubles, right? Where teammates, boost each other up, and they, sort of just raise each other's game. And some players seem to have that personality where it really works. And it seems to me that Goff and McNally have a little bit of that, where there's just a friendship and a chemistry between the two of them that allow them to play better than you would expect them to. Okay, any other American players that you want to point out, Ted, or anyone else in the women's draw that you think are worth sort of paying some attention to?
No, not really. My unfortunately for me, because you don't get a chance to watch some of it on tennis. You really can't unless you go into the tournaments yourself in person. It's hard to follow the players because you just don't see the airtime.
Okay. Now, one American that you did mention is Bethany Mattek-Sands, right? And I think that, she's a little bit of an interesting player too. She's a little older. She's been around a while. She's also a commentator that you see on the Tennis Channel a lot. It's sort of interesting to see her navigate, what may be the last 3 or 4 years of her tennis career. And it's someone that I can't help pulling for, and I wish that more players would do that, right? So play a little bit longer because they love the game. Look, I'm a huge Roger Federer fan. I know that his days as a single player are over. Selfishly, I would love it to see him, just come out and play doubles a little bit. Again, it has to be, you have to have that passion for the game. It has to be something that you really love to do. To want to do that, he doesn't need the money. He doesn't need the endorsements. But, what a treat for the rest of us fans if he just decided to do that for a couple of years. And you know what? He could compete at the highest levels of doubles easily for the next 5 years. Again, if that's what he wants to do.
I think Federer, if he was to play doubles, he would actually be losing money.
Right.
But he is exciting to watch play doubles, though.
All right, so that's going to wrap up our part of the women's doubles, and now we're going to move on to the men's doubles. And I'm going to start with the #1 seeded team. That's Pavic and Mektic. They're seeded number one. They're no surprise that they're sort of the favorite in the men's doubles draw. Pavic is ranked number one in men's doubles. Mektic is ranked number three in men's doubles. So it's also a very high level pairing. They played Eastbourne this year. That's the warm-up grass tournament to Wimbledon. They won that. They're obviously playing really well. They lost in the semis of the Australian Open. That was another pretty good outcome for them. They are my favorite in the doubles, men's doubles area, and they look like they have a real good chance, in my opinion. How do you see it, Ted?
I'm a huge fan of those guys. When they play tennis, they dominate the net, and they're always looking for ways to just end the point early, cutting off the balls, even on the return to serve. But you can never count out, if when Dodig plays, that's a really strong team. Who else is in there is playing? It's Abert Mahout. I mean, my gosh, those guys they've really, they won the French, so that's a really, really good team. Suarez and Murray, that's another great team. I'm a huge Jimmy Murray fan. He's exciting to watch. I love how he plays the game. He's he's got a really good high IQ on the court.
So another doubles team on the men's side that I want to highlight is Farah and Cabal. They were seeded number three in Wimbledon. They are also a highly ranked pairing. Farah is ranked number four in men's doubles, and Cabal is ranked number five. They went to the semis of Roland Garros this year. In the past, I think in 2019, they won both Wimbledon and the Australian Open. So they're a pairing that's been around a while and very talented. And if I had to pick sort of my second favorite behind Pavic and Mektic, it would definitely be them. Any other players on the men's doubles side or teams that you are paying attention to, Ted?
Well, I can't believe I forgot about Cabal and Farad. I mean, that's a really great pairing. I love those guys. So it's exciting. Like I said, and it's only 1 or 2 points that in doubles, because it's so close, what makes the difference between if you win or lose the match. It's crazy how close those doubles is.
And, I always try to highlight an American team, but I have to say, now that the Bryan brothers are sort of out of the picture, it's sad to say that I don't really see an American doubles team sort of competing in that top 10 level yet. There was a little while when Jack Sock was playing a lot of doubles, and he clearly had a huge game. Didn't move well enough to compete at top 10 singles, but definitely did in doubles. But he's sort of been out of the picture. Ted, do you see any Americans that we should give a little attention to that you think might be able to challenge in doubles?
Well, I really think that Tennis Sangren should go into doubles. I think he needs the confidence, but I think he's got the game to really be successful. If you pair him up with a big server, like let's say, I don't know, an Opelka, because here's another guy who needs to get some wins under his belt that could go far. But again, it's serve, return serve, and volley. I mean, yeah, I'm a huge Jack Sock fan, and especially I think he could definitely go far in doubles if he ever gets back into it. Because that forehand of his, you know what he strings his rackets at?
No.
Like 40.
Wow.
Yeah. So he's playing with a fishnet.
Right.
So anyway.
Right. Imagine the trampoline effect that you get off of those kind of strings when they're that loose, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's going to wrap it up for the men's doubles side. And now I want to move on and just talk a little bit about doubles strategy, right? And that's because, look, so many of us are USTA players and we play doubles. And one of the things that we miss out on by not having as much TV attention and in general just media attention to the doubles game is that we miss out on a lot of the tactics and the strategy that some of these high level doubles teams are, you know, helping them win. And the truth is the strategy works, you know, the strategy works just as well for us, right? We may not hit the ball as hard, we may not run as fast, but the tactics and the strategy applies equally to a USTA match, just the way it applies to an ATP match. So I wanted to sort of talk about some things, you know, when I'm looking at a doubles pairing that always occur to me, right? And one of those things, of course, is right-hander versus left-hander, right? And I've always felt, particularly if you had two good servers, and one was a righty and one was a lefty, that it made just a little bit harder on the returning team because they were seeing the ball spin in a different way, sometimes curving away from their body, sometimes curving right into their body. And it made it harder for them to sort of get into a rhythm, right? So one of the things that I've seen with the players that I've paired up best with, I'm a righty, is that they tend to be lefties, right? And if they have a good lefty serve and I have a good righty serve, that's a big part of doubles. And it makes them really struggle to sort of break us. What are your thoughts on tactics and strategy, Ted?
I'm a lefty, and I enjoy a lot of spin when I play tennis. When I'm serving, the biggest mistake a lot of servers make is they stand out really wide and they want to hit the wide serve to somebody. And that's the only thing they do, because that's the only thing they can do. The problem with serving the same ball over and over is that even if your opponents aren't that good, eventually they're going to get a rhythm because you're hitting the same ball all the time. So mixing the ball up is huge. I like to, and in doubles, I like to jam my opponents. And the reason why is if I have a good netman who can move it even a couple steps, they're getting they're good to do cherry picking all day long.
Now, another sort of strategy that involves doubles is serving and volleying, and then making a decision. Are you going to serve and volley on first and second serve? Are you going to serve and volley just on the first serve? You know, it used to be maybe just, you know, 5-10 years ago, it was sort of assumed that, you know, if you were playing doubles, you were going to serve and volley. The game's changed a lot. There's a lot of more sort of baseline oriented players. And so you don't see that strategy quite as much as you used to 5-10 years ago. But because you're only responsible for half the court, it is really, you know, easier to serve and volley in a double setting than it is in a single setting. And I think it also puts a lot of pressure on the returner, right? The returner doesn't know whether he can, you know, kind of hit the ball deep. Or if he does that, are you going to serve and volley and just put it away at the net? Is it going to be an easy volley? And then also, I think the same thing on the return side, right? You know, you don't see that very much now, but in the old days, there used to be a lot of the chip charge play, right? Where what doubles players' goal was to sort of get to the net and take the net as quickly as possible, whether it was off a serve or off a return, if you could do it. And those are sort of important skills and strategies that you want to talk to your partner. Obviously, you know, if you don't feel comfortable serving and volleying, that's not something you can do, right? And if you don't feel comfortable chipping and charging, that's also something that you can't do. but it seems to me that every doubles team wants to talk about that, and then sort of implement that as much as they feel comfortable with. The other thing I have to say is I always felt like on big points, serving and volleying, chip and charging, just putting the pressure on the other team. Like if you're a good, consistent volleyer and you feel confident you can get that ball back, you know, game point, set point, those are great times to serve, volley, chip, charge. And where your goal is you're just hitting a good shot, setting up at the net, and basically daring your opponent to pass you. Any thoughts about that?
For me, the two most important things to do in tennis doubles is when I'm hitting the ball to my opponent is to hit the ball below the net when they make contact with the ball. Because once they're making contact and they have to hit up the ball, again, if I'm has any speed or my partner has any speed, it's a lot easier to poach on the ball. The second thing is if you go down the middle when they're both at the net, that's down the middle solves the riddle. Those are the two biggest things I look for. The other thing about staying back is, especially in all levels of play, is when you're a pro, you've got the huge ground structure. You just pelt the ball, rip the felt off the cut the ball. At our level, the lob is good because it gives me a chance to go into the net, but also it's a good way of making sure that if they've got a good net guy, that they can't put the ball away. So then it rests on who's got the better overhead. And if I've got a good overhead that day, my opponents won't want to lob as much.
Now, another strategy that I think is really important that I don't see enough, and this is really focusing on sort of older USTA players, right? But one of the things I notice is that some of the older guys lose their serve, right? The shoulder isn't as loose as it was. It's not as strong as it was. And let's be honest, so sometimes when you're in your 60s and over, you're just sort of pushing the ball into the court, right? And I think, especially if you're playing against good returners and they're smacking that ball for winners, that one of the first things you have to talk about is whether your net player is going to play back, right? Because a lot of times you can play defense and win points when the truth is you're not going to be aggressive. If your partner is just pushing the ball in, you're kind of like turning into a pincushion at the net, and it's sort of a waste to have you there. Where you could be at the baseline, even if they hit the ball hard at you, you're still comfortable. You have enough time to react and to get the ball back in play. And sometimes you can just lob and get them deep in the court, and then you can come up when you have a safe opportunity to do so. So that's another thing that when I watch USTA matches, that's one of the tactics that I think players miss often. How about you? Do you see other things like that players just seem to miss in their matches?
The most important one is I think whoever controls the net wins the match. And if I can like you said, get inside my opponent's heads by covering a lot of court and poaching, that makes them think about the shot. And if they resort to the lob, then they're conceding the net, and so that gives me and my team an advantage. If they dink the ball, that gives us an advantage because I'm fast enough I can get up to it. If my opponent can't volley, I look for a new partner. I don't care if you miss, but just try, and I won't give you a bad serve. But I don't mind if my partner's got a weak serve because my hands are fast enough where I could absorb a lot of pace and put the ball away. But yeah, it's. I like also doing the fakes. If the returner's watching me at the net, they're not watching the ball. So if I'm faking and then staying home, that also works. So it's people, if you're well-rounded, to me, you're more successful, and it's also more fun. So I don't mind playing even I formation tennis. You know, if the guy's got a really good cross court shot, take away the cross court, make him go down the line. You know, so
Right. No, and I think most doubles players would benefit by just keeping their mind open to, as a match develops, when they see either, we're getting pushed around at the net, or this returner's smacking all these cross-court winners, that you immediately try to problem solve. Do we want to go to an I formation? You know, uh, how can I, uh, address that and solve that, right? And for every, for every tactic, there's a counter tactic, right? And you always have to sort of think that way. And you want to develop the skills that allow you, right? So you want to be comfortable in I formation, because that's how you take away a cross-court return from somebody, right? You want to be able to serve and volley, because that's how you take the net away from your opponent, right? And it's so important to be comfortable with all of these tactics, so that whatever skills your opponent has, you have a way to beat him regardless. Any other closing thoughts for you on this sort of, wide open doubles strategy and tactics?
the something I've started to do, and I learned this from a young college kid, is that when I'm my partner's serving, I'm at the net. I start off at the service line and start moving in as they serve the ball. Number one, I can play more towards the middle of the court because my partner won't be pressured to be afraid of hitting me. And number two, my feet are already moving because I'm older and slower now. I can't move as fast, so that's a way of cheating to cover more court. And people think I'm running all the places when in a sense all I'm doing is I'm moving closer and cutting off the angles. So that's one tactic that I've really picked up on. The second thing I like to do with my opponent is that I like to I used to play on the deuce side and have the forehands down the middle. My forehand has become a good weapon. So my net guy, I'm always saying, listen, either pound the ball down the middle hard, deep wide, or short wide. If I go down deep, I want my net guy to look for the post, and I don't care if they lob over his head because I'll look for that. So I want my partner getting cherries in the net and then pounding their net guy, getting in their head. Oh my gosh, I got this big guy at the net.
That's our show today in terms of doubles. We look forward to having this conversation in either greater detail, just because I really feel like there isn't enough talk about doubles and not enough talk about tactics and strategy, and that it's something that would be benefit all doubles players. But that's it for today. Enjoy Wimbledon. Have a great 4th of July weekend.